our show this evening is a best-selling author of I Can't Breathe, how a racial hoax is killing America. David Horowitz joins us from Colorado today. Thank you, David, for being on the program. Oh, now we have no audio. I can't hear your audio. We'll see if he can check and see. Is that on your end?
No.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Very good. Thank you very much for being on the program, David.
Okay.
So we're going to talk today a little bit about, first of all, I want people to know who you are. I know who you are, but there may be some in our audience who are quite a bit younger who may not know. And I would like you to just give us a little background. I know a mini bio. A biography would take 2 segments, but if you can give me a mini biography.
Sure. I was raised by card-carrying members of the American Communist Party who wanted Stalin and Russia to win the Cold War. I was a founder of the New Left. I edited its largest magazine. I raised a lot of money for the Black Panther Party. They murdered my friend, and that stopped me. When I realized I was among criminals and murderers, and everybody was defending them, just the way they defend the criminals of Black Lives Matter today. You know, it's open season on Whitey. America as a country has never been more equal, more inclusive, more tolerant than it is today. But in the political dialogues, as it were, in the political conversation, it's never been more racist. The Biden White House is a racist White House. Biden is, I mean, just look at what's happening. This is a terrible thing happened in Buffalo where a lunatic, I mean, literally a psychopath, who could have been hospitalized, killed some Black people. And the president's gonna go out there, everybody's wringing their hands, when a Black maniac drove a car through a Christmas parade in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I forget how many people he murdered. He did it deliberately because they were white. Because he was Black, disappeared. There's no national outrage or anything. And when I say racial hoax, here's the hoax. George Floyd was not killed because he was Black. The Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, who's the chief prosecutor on the case, was interviewed by 60 Minutes a week after the mock trial went on, where everybody knew if they said that the officer was innocent, there would be riots and people could be killed. So they voted to convict him. Keith Ellison was asked by 60 Minutes, was there a racial dimension to the killing of George Floyd, or the death of George Floyd, more accurately? And this is a direct quote. He said, no, we couldn't find one. This guy is so left, Keith Ellison, and such a racist himself that he was a spokesman for Louis Farrakhan for a decade. And he's the chief prosecutor, he couldn't find any evidence that Derek Chauvin was prejudiced. And Derek Chauvin was married to a woman of color. People don't generally know that. There's no evidence that he intended to kill George Floyd either. And yet we had 220 cities burned. There were 600 actually demonstrations, but 220 violent ones in all our major cities. $2 billion worth of damage, scores of people murdered over a hoax. America is not a racist country. There's no more privileged group. When you say privilege, it means artificially privileged, like government gives you privileges. There's no more privileged group than Black America. They're the beneficiaries, Blacks in America. And I say this as somebody who marched in civil rights marches. Get this, in 1948, that was my first civil rights march. So there's no more privileged group, no more beneficiary of government monies, trillions of dollars, scholarships, get into universities ahead of everybody else, get jobs ahead of everybody else, get promoted ahead of everybody else than Black people. If you're Black, you can show up with 100 other Blacks, rob a Macy's or
Right.
a department store, no consequences.
None.
You
Yep.
think a white gang could do that? So we're living in a surreal world where everything is upside down. And this book I've written, I Can't Breathe, I document, what I did was I looked at the 26 most prominent Black Lives Matter cases, and they're all hoaxes. They're like George Floyd, who was not killed because he was Black and was not murdered. Breonna Taylor was not shot in her sleep and murdered. She was an accomplice, criminal accomplice to a major drug dealer who
Exactly.
was poisoning the ghetto in Louisville with heroin. And she's dead because her current boy, she was in love with this drug dealer. The current boyfriend shot a cop who came with a warrant to arrest them. That's why she's dead. And these idiots, these racists on the city council in Louisville, and they're on all of our major city councils, they're all Democrats, gave her family $12 million in a wrongful death suit when it was a rightful death suit, justifiable homicide, and all those cops lost their jobs. That's the country we're living in now.
It's shocking. And it kind of seems like it's not going to be getting any better. It always seems like it's going to continue to get worse. And I will tell you, I also really, really like the little disclaimer that you have on the top of your book there. It says, trigger warning, this book presents facts about controversial incidents at odds with the conventional wisdom. Read at your own risk. And there, I bet there were some triggers. I bet people were triggered.
My publisher wrote that as a joke.
It's true. It's every good joke has an element of truth. That's Mr. Horowitz.
I've had people complain on Amazon that it was unfair that they put the trigger warning on the book.
Well, you got to give them a little help because you don't want them to just get surprised with it, though, either. That would be even worse.
That's true.
So this is what's going on. The radical left has aligned with Islam. They're trying to do completely away with Christianity. And then you got China in there who just wants to obliterate us at the same time. So we're in a real dire...
So do the jihadists.
Yeah.
And the Democrat Party, it has a Hitler caucus there that supports the jihadists, headed by Ilhan Omar and OC. Well, that entire radical caucus, and it's like 96 Democrat votes are on the hating left, hateful left. Hates America. The President of the United States hates America. Why would he open our southern border? People don't understand how dangerous this open border is. Between 2011 and 2016, there were 2 million illegals who got into the country. That's how many are going to get in this year. But between 2011 and 2016, there were 730,000 illegals in U.S. prisons, violent criminals and straight criminals in U.S. prisons. They had committed a million drug crimes, 134,000 sexual assaults, 33,000 homicides. That's what they're letting into our country now.
It's shocking.
If you didn't hate America, or they're giving baby formula to the illegals, people.
I know. Yeah, that is a really bad PR move.
And where did they learn the hatred of America? They learned it in our schools, in the universities, and now the K-12 schools. They're no respecters. The leftists are no respecters of childhood innocence. They're epic child abusers, and with the president in the lead.
Agreed.
He's the fountainhead of racism in this country. January 6th is an example of American fascism. And the fascists are Nancy Pelosi, who's an accomplice to the murder of Ashley Babbitt.
Babbitt,
Let's
agree.
talk straight here. These people were invited in by the Capitol Police. They weren't even trespassing because they were invited in by the cops as a trap that Nancy Pelosi set. And they've languished in prison for a year. This is so un-American. It's unbelievable that it is successful. On the other hand, now you have these leftists getting out there and saying they're going to create a summer of rage, meaning people are going to die. That's what that means. They're going to burn cities. They're going to obstruct traffic. They're going to beat up people. And they're going to make the country ungovernable. That is insurrection, not what happened on January 6th. You can protest a rigged election. And anybody who doesn't believe that the 2020 election was rigged is either lying to themselves or to you.
I so agree with that. That is so true. And I absolutely agree with you regarding the J6. It's so refreshing to hear somebody say exactly what happened. You're right. They were invited in. They were lured. It was a trap. They were tracking them, all of the things. And then we've got political prisoners now in the United States of America because of this stuff. And then you've got these people now, and I am mystified by the whole abortion insurrection thing. I have to tell you, I don't understand how you can absolutely celebrate and
because
joyfully.
They're communists.
Yes.
They're communists. They believe the end justifies the means. They don't. I was going to say before the break that my liberal, they were actual liberal professors when I went to school in the 50s, college. But they would always emphasize that process is very important. It's very important to have due process. Democrats don't give a damn about due process, and they deny it wherever they can. The process, the Supreme Court has got to be an independent. I used to get upset when pro-lifers would demonstrate in front of the Supreme Court, although the example was set by the left. The Supreme Court is not a political institution, or shouldn't be. It should be independent of the legislature and of the political process. Of course, it isn't, because the Democrats have destroyed the nomination and confirmation process. They did that with Bork. What is that now? 40 years ago.
How many years ago now, right?
Politicize it. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was a raving leftist, she believed there was no difference between men and women, which reminds me of a joke I heard when I was a kid. A friend, it took place in France, and a feminist was saying, there's no difference between men or there's only a very little difference between men and women. And somebody in the back said, "Vive la différence."
Right, they're very good. Right, well, now we've got emojis that have pregnant men, David.
Yeah, it's all a farce. I mean, we live in, it's like Alice in Wonderland.
It's exactly like that. It's like La La Land, and it's hard to recognize the country a lot. I look at things. Now, in your article,
they hate the Supreme. They want to destroy the Supreme Court.
That was where I was going. I was going to say, you had a phrase.
Destroy the Electoral College. Destroy the First Amendment. Destroy the Second Amendment. These are wreckers. These are destroyers. The Democrat Party is an anti-American criminal party, and just beware.
Abort the court.
So yeah, that's one of their signs. But that's what. Look, if you go outside the house of a judge, there's only one reason to do it outside their house. It's to intimidate them.
Right.
So you want to force your result. You don't want to go through the process. Roe v. Wade is a laughable decision. It's really, it's worse than that. It's a tragically phony decision. I did a book called Dark Agenda about the war against Christianity by the left. And I came across John Hart Ely, was a Yale law professor, pro-abortion. but he said Roe v. Wade, there was no right to privacy in the Constitution. This is a fake decision. You know, they say, oh, if you're a male, you can't have an opinion about my body. But everybody on the court, the whole court in deciding Roe v. Wade was male.
Male, I know that, and I knew that too.
There's no logic. You can't have arguments with them. They don't argue the law.
You're right.
Just argue the fake things like, you know, you get your hands off my body. You know, and women will have no choice. Women have a choice. They have a choice who to sleep with.
Exactly.
When to sleep with them, whether to wear contraceptives or not, whether to take the day after pill afterwards, and whether to, if they don't want the child, whether to bring it to birth and get it adopted. There's a lot of people who want children in this country. All those choices. So these are people who refuse to make all those choices but want to kill the babies.
Now, if people want to find this article, they can find it on your site, which is frontpagemag.com. And I would recommend that people go there and see the article, first of all. You can also learn about your book there as well, too, which is I Can't Breathe, How a Racial Hoax is Killing America. Learn more about David Horowitz, and we are so pleased that you joined us today. Thank you so much for coming on No Apologies, David.